I'm Peter with prolifeunity.com and prolifenews.tv, and I'm with Mark Crutcher from Life Dynamics. We're here in your studio in Denton, Texas. Beautiful place you have here, and
thank you.
You've done quite a bit in the movement. Maybe you could fill folks in, when you started and why'd you get involved in the first place?
Well, I started, actually, I've been in the pro-life movement as either a weekend warrior or full-time for almost 30 years, but I've been working full-time a little over 20 years. And so I started in 1886 doing seminars for the pro-life movement. And just one thing led to another, and eventually started Life Dynamics in 1992. And
is that here in Denton?
Yes, yes. And started, like I said, started in 1992, and just kind of progressed to the point where we are today. And we started Life Talk in 1999, our television show. And we do a lot of different types of activities, of course, as you know. We provide litigation support for personal injury attorneys who sue on behalf of women who've been killed or injured or sexually assaulted while having abortions. We do a lot of undercover work. We go inside the abortion industry, inside the abortion clinics. We're the group that discovered the trafficking in baby parts. We were undercover in an abortion clinic in Overland Park, Kansas for 31 months and came out with all the documentation on the trafficking in the parts of babies. Abortion clinics chop up the babies they kill and sell them for parts, and there's a lot of money in that, and there's still a lot of money in it. They're still doing it. We also do sting operations on the abortion industry. We did the one with Planned Parenthood in the National Abortion Federation, where we caught them covering up for the men who rape children, violating the state's mandatory reporting laws, and using taxpayer dollars to do it. And we do a lot of research, and we produce videos, and we're in the process of producing a video right now that I think when it hits is going to, we're not totally talking about it in the public, but when it hits, I think it's going to change everything in the pro-life movement. We've been researching it for almost 3 years, and it's going to be pretty dramatic.
Wow. For those who might not know, why did you get involved in the movement in the first place?
Well, it's just, I often say I got drafted, and God taps you on the shoulder and says, this is what I want you to do, then you do it. He's in control, and to be honest with you, I look back on it now, and I can't say there was ever that defining moment when I said I'm going to, dedicate my life to the pro-life movement. It just kind of, you start little, and then it just kind of grows and grows, and you have more success, and the things you do work, and so you just keep on. But there never really was a defining
something specific.
No, and I was always pro-life. I wasn't like a lot of pro-lifers who say, I used to be pro-choice, and then all of a sudden, I saw this video or I heard this argument or whatever, and then I was...
The lightning bolt happened.
There was no road to Damascus conversion for me. It was always kind of a no-brainer. If they're children, you can't kill them, and they're children. Yeah. So I never understood the intellectual basis for the opposition. So to me, like I said, it was just a no-brainer. So, and I just... there came a point at which I was involved in a lot of other issues, and I thought, well, there is no issue other than this. If we don't solve this one, these other issues are irrelevant. This country is not going to collapse over tax policy or over unemployment or over... God's not going to judge this country over our policies on minutia and on financial issues and things like that. But when you're killing 3,000 of God's children a day, there's going to come a point, and I believe we're rapidly approaching that point, where God says, no more, that's it. Yeah. And this is you look through Scripture, and I don't believe for a moment that you have to be a Christian or a believer to think it's wrong to kill a child. I have a lot of people I know that are atheists, that to them it's just a civil rights issue, and really that's what it is. It is a civil rights issue. It's a human rights issue. But as a Christian, you look at Scripture, and one of the things you quickly see is that God is extraordinarily forgiving throughout Scripture, Old Testament, New Testament, extraordinarily forgiving, except in one area, where it comes to harming children. And you can look at Old Testament, New Testament both, and you can see that that's the one place where he kind of draws the line and says, this won't be tolerated. Yeah. And so, it seems to me that it's the first among equals of all the things that we need to be addressing as a culture. Obviously, our culture's in a moral and cultural tailspin right now. I believe we live in a post-Christian world, and that's just the reality of it. Yeah. But God is not going to be have his face spit in like we're doing it right now forever. There's going to come a time when he's going to say that's it, and the judgment's going to come. And he is, in my view, he's judged America before. It would take forever to explain it, but I've always believed that what we call the Civil War, American Civil War, which was really not a civil war, but that's what we call it. But that 4-year period of time was God's judgment on this nation. I don't think it had anything to do with whether slavery was going to stop or not. God was going to end slavery in his time and in the manner of his choosing. That war was about judgment on this nation. So he's judged America before for the sins we've committed. And this is the far greatest sin that we've ever committed in our history. And so at some point time it's going to run out. Yeah. And I want to make sure that when it does, I'm at least on the right side of that issue. Yeah. And doing what I can to stop it.
I hear you all the way. It's interesting that you bring up this the God issue. I bring it up all the time because most of us that are fighting this, who I communicate with, we say God's on our side. We honestly believe that, and I believe that the people I communicate with
I don't believe
that. Well, okay, let's get to that in a second.
I believe that we're on God's side.
Okay.
This is not our battle. This is his battle.
Okay, good.
He's the general. We're the foot soldiers.
Well, that leads to...
He didn't join us.
Right. Well, that leads me to my question that I've been asking around this country for the last, few months now, and the question is, and I have the poll up on the internet right now, is when does God want abortion to end?
Well, God wanted it to never start. I think that's
the poll.
That's a false. That's a false.
Well, it's kind of a dig, because it's the three answers that I hear often from people is abortion will end when God wants it to end, abortion will end when the church wants it to end, and then of course there's some who say abortion will end when people have finally had enough. But the number one answer that I have up there is today. And that is the number one pick that people choose, and that's sort of the point that I try to get across, is that this is not a tomorrow thing; it's a today thing. And what are we doing today to end abortion today and fight not just abortion but the culture of death? And I think you probably agree that this isn't just a topic of conversation, is it?
No. This is not. And I often say this. People criticize me because I say, the people that are on the other side of this issue are not our opponents. They are our enemies. And people say, oh, you shouldn't take that harsh, enemy, friend, that sort of approach. They're the enemies of God. They're killing the children that God created. How can they not be our enemies if they're his enemies? And so I do take that approach. And like I said, I don't think it's a matter of when God wants us to end. He didn't want it to start with.
That's a great answer.
So
I haven't heard that one yet. So.
And again, I want to say something.
I'm laughing because it's like, whoa, he hit me with a new one.
Right. But the issue that we need to concentrate on is not stopping abortion, or saying that the fundamental operating principle of the pro-life movement must never be opposition to abortion. It must be returning legal protection to every unborn child from the moment of conception, from the moment of fertilization.
So our definition is skewed. We're not asking for the right thing.
We think that those are the same thing. If you say to people, well, I'm not here to try to stop abortion, I'm here to try to return legal protection to the unborn. I say, well, that's the same thing. No, it's not. Because I can bring employees of abortion clinics in here who are the most rabid, hardcore pro-abort you'll ever see in your life, and they will sit right here and tell you they're opposed to abortion. They just support the right of someone to do it. So the issue is not opposition to abortion. And this has affected everything the pro-life movement does. We go to politicians and we say, what's your quote-unquote position on abortion? Well, everybody's opposed to abortion, right?
Right.
Oh, I'm pro-life, I'm opposed to abortion. No. What pro-life means is that you believe that the unborn child is a living human being from the moment of fertilization and deserves the same protection of the law that you and I have. That's what being pro-life means. And so we've got to get to this point, and I mentioned politics. We've got to get to the point where the pro-life movement looks at the nation's politicians and says, look, I don't care what your position on abortion is. I don't care what you think about abortion. I don't care what you feel about it. None of that's important to me. All I want to know is, as a matter of fact, not only is it not important to me, I don't even want to hear you say it. All I want to hear you say is, what is your plan to return legal protection to every unborn child from the moment of fertilization. That's all I want to hear. If you can't give me a good answer to that, adios.
But they run on a pro-life platform.
I don't care what what does the platform mean? Mm-hmm. When the Republican Party has betrayed us over and over and over again with the platform in place, when the Republican Party today will take a donation from you or from me and give it to a pro-abort Republican who's running against a pro-life Democrat, how important is the platform? Right. The platform is a scam. Mm-hmm. Because every 4 years what the Republican Party does is they put this little dog and pony show on at the convention. Oh, there's a bunch of people who want to remove the platform. Oh, but we're going to fight hard for it. And so we see them fight hard to keep the pro-life plank in there.
Yeah.
And we think, oh, look at them, they're our champions, they're working for us. And then as soon as the election's over, that platform's put on the shelf until the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. And they run this dog and pony show again.
Well,
and we fall for it.
Speaking of the dog and pony show, now we're in an election cycle. We see it in full gear. And there's a difficult issue. A lot of people are asking, what do we do? We've got McCain, we've got Obama. We know Obama is a hardcore pro-abortion candidate who wants to remove any kind of laws that have been passed that have protected people in any way.
Right. Well, we say that.
So what do we do? We
say the Republicans have this, we hear about the thing, no child left behind. My view is Obama's position is no child left alive. And, I think that's exactly right. This is the most radically pro-abortion person, more so than Bill Clinton. I think this man has lower morals. I know he's a heretic. I mean, he sits there and calls himself a Christian, but he's a heretic. He's a heretic. He's got lower morals than Bill Clinton, and I think he's more pro-abortion than Bill Clinton was. And that's hard to be. To be those three things is hard to do.
Yeah. But so what do we do? We've got McCain running against him, and he's not exactly.
I don't tell people
Johnny
what they
pro-life
do.
Either. So,
no, he's not pro-life. But
what do we do? There's a lot of folks that are looking for leadership. They're looking for pro-life leadership to help them, to guide them.
I don't know.
I've heard so many different directions on this.
There's two schools of thought. I mean, one of them is that you do defensive voting. You don't vote for McCain in order to make McCain president. You vote for McCain in order to keep Obama from being president. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one school of thought. Mm-hmm. Another one is, at some point, we're going to have to teach the Republican Party a lesson, and that is that if you run people who aren't pro-life, we're staying home. And when I say pro-life, again, I don't mean what their position on abortion is.
Right.
What I mean by pro-life is that I want to hear McCain or whoever come out here in the front of the nation and say, here's what I'm going to do to return legal protection to the unborn. Not here's what I'm going to do to stop abortion. Obama will do that. Mm-hmm. Obama would be perfectly happy to come on national television tonight and say, here's what I'm going to do to quote unquote reduce the need for abortion. Well, that's a lie.
Off as a nice guy,
right? And reasonable and rational and so forth. So he'll come on and talk about reducing abortion.
Yeah,
I'm not interested in that. What I want to know is, what are you going to do to return legal protection to the unborn child? That's what I want to hear. Mm-hmm. And until we ask that question, I think we're fooling ourselves in the political process.
Well, I guess, the thing that concerns me is, and I hate using that word, I've heard that from so many pro-life people, so I'm concerned. But anyway, what I am worried about in this whole situation is that we get stuck in this over and over again. And here we are.
One more time. Into the breach.
So I agree basically with both ideas of where to go. A, stay home and send a message. B, well, McCain's going to be better than Obama, so maybe we should just go that route. So I understand why anybody would want to say either of those, and I say both of them are powerful positions. So for you folks out there watching this, there's your challenge. We've all got to go through this. It's hard for us to say one way or another. We know what we want, and I believe the right thing to do, my opinion, is that we send the message. I believe that's the right thing to do. And then the other half of me is scared to death of if Obama gets elected, what he will do to kill human beings in this country.
Well, we survived 8 years of Bill Clinton.
That's true.
And I can tell you that I can remember the week that Bill Clinton was elected because my phone's lit up. And people calling saying, it's over, we're done. We're never going to, see any kind of pro-life progress. It's over. We're going to have 5 new Supreme Court justices that are going to be pro-abort. They're going to be there for the next 500 years or whatever. Yeah. People went into an absolute panic. I literally had people on the phone crying.
Wow.
And 8 years later, something that most people don't know, since 1992, I did our first study of abortion clinics in the country. In 1992, there were over 2,120 freestanding abortion clinics in the United States. Today, there are 740. 2/3 of them have closed since 1992. The bulk of those closed during the Clinton administration.
Wow.
And it's
even with the FACE Act in place.
With everything in place, more abortion clinics closed during the 8 years of the Clinton administration than any other time since this battle began.
That's incredible. Wow.
So,
I didn't know that.
To some degree, what we have to do is we have to trust God. That if we do the right thing, God will provide the results. And so that's the argument for telling the Republican Party, this guy isn't good enough, we're staying home, and we'll just put up with 4 years of Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker of the House and Harry Reid as the leader of the Senate. That's a axis of evil if I ever heard of it. But you know what? The unborn are worth us stepping back. You know, that's an argument for that position.
Yeah.
The other argument, of course, against it is, well, when the next president takes office, I think it's 3 of the Supreme Court justices will be 70 years old or older.
Yep.
And so he could appoint 3 to 5 or whoever, he or she, if it's it won't be a woman, obviously, because Clinton's out, but that person could appoint 3 to 5 Supreme Court justices. But I don't know. I say I don't tell people how to vote.
Right.
I just lay it out there. All I know is this. What I know for a fact is this. If 20 years ago, the pro-life movement had stood up and said to the Republican Party, until you give us a legitimate person who's going to come in here and tell us how he's going to end this thing, how he's going to return legal protection to the unborn, we're staying home. Had we done that 20 years ago,
we wouldn't be here today.
We wouldn't be where we are now. And so, again, I don't tell people how to vote.
Yep.
But
there's a couple of good schools of thought there to think about, and I agree with that. As far as life dynamics and things that people might be able to do to get involved, and how do they find out more about what it is you do?
Well, we have a whole lot of websites, for one thing. And we created what we call a gateway website, where you can go to one website and access all of our others. And that's called prolifeamerica.com. And also we operate the largest abortion-related forum on the internet. And you can access it through Pro-Life America, the prolifeamerica.com forum. And we have news updates on there every day, and then things about what we're doing. One thing that's really exciting that we're really pumped about is we're putting all of Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, we're putting all her writings on the internet.
Oh.
We've acquired them.
Civilization and all the others as well.
All of them.
Books?
All of her books, plus all of the birth control reviews. From 1917 to 1940, and we've acquired all of them over the years. We've had them scanned. They're going to be OCR'd, which means somebody can type in a word and it'll do a word search throughout them. Yeah. And it's going to be a tremendous resource.
Wow.
And that should be hot by the end of this week.
So, Pro-Life Action, prolifeamerica.com. Right. Is the hub site, the gateway, where people can find out about the other websites that you're
they're all on there, along with Priests for Life. We're kind of a sister organization with Priests for Life, and
excellent.
And we put all their websites on there as well, so they can go to that one website, and it's kind of a general purpose. If you need to know something about abortion, you're going to find it on Pro-Life America.
All right. Now, what do you say to folks out there who might be thinking they want to get involved somehow? What can they do? Well,
my argument has always been that God gave each one of us talents. There's things that I can do that you can't do. There's things you can do that I can't do, or won't do, or don't feel comfortable doing, or whatever. That's what I did when people are always calling me saying, "Well, how did you get involved pro-life full time? I'd love to do full time pro-life work, but how do you survive, and where do you find your niche?" What I did was take an inventory of my talents. I looked around and said, "Okay, I'm real good at this. I'm no good at all at this. This is my skill. You know, I have no skills in this." And then I concentrated on my skills and said, okay, how can I take this skill set and use it in the pro-life movement? And
so if they can write, they should
whatever
try to do the writing. If they can photograph, if they can whatever.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to play Major League Baseball and you said, I can't throw with the darn, but boy, I can hit. You wouldn't try to be a pitcher. right?
Right.
You'd say, okay,
go where your skills are.
You go where your skills are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you figure out, and then not only you go where your skills are, but then you figure out, how do I plug those skills into the pro-life movement? I'm going to look at the pro-life movement and say, there's a hole that needs to be plugged, and I've got a skill that'll plug that hole. And that's what I did. And I don't know if it'll work for everybody. God made sure that it worked in my case, and that I started out working in the spare bedroom of my house, and my wife didn't know where our next meal was coming from very often.
Yeah.
But God provided, and I often tell people, we have sacrificed for the pro-life movement, but we've never suffered for it. God has not caused us to suffer for the pro-life movement, but we've sacrificed. And there's a distinction between suffering and sacrifice. And you have to be willing to sacrifice, and I think you have to be willing to suffer whether you ever do or you don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a matter of taking inventory of yourself and seeing what you're good at. And anything you're good at, there is some way to use that in the pro-life movement. I mean, the skills that I thought I had, most people would say, well, what does that have to do with pro-life? But I found ways to make those fit. And, I think that's what you have to do.
Well, and here we are,
right.
all these years later, and
right.
you've obviously done a lot. The behind-the-scenes stuff has fascinated a lot of people, and I've had people write to me and sign up with Pro-Life Unity and ask how they can do the kind of stuff that you do,
right.
which of course now in turn I'm having to refer them to you because
right.
you specialize in this stuff.
Right.
It's not what I do. So for those of you who are watching and you want to do the behind-the-scenes stuff, we'll go to prolifeamerica.com and check out the links there. Communicate with these folks here at Life Dynamics. Mark Crutcher, thank you for taking the time speaking with us today. And
my pleasure.
Appreciate you doing what you do. As we often say in the movement, if it weren't for us folks out there speaking for the unborn, they would die in silence.
Absolutely.
So
thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, sir.